Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the DEX Show. I'm Tom McGraw, joined as ever by Tim Flower. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, Tom, I'm doing good. I hope you're doing well, too. What better way to highlight the mission of this podcast and NextThink as a whole than to have on a guest called Mr. Employee Experience, right? Ben should have been our guest number one. But I'm feeling a bit disappointed in myself and also a little jealous. You know that folks can get me on LinkedIn and Twitter by searching for the Proactive Guy, but I am so disappointed I didn't think of Mr. Employee Experience first.
It's a cool name. Well, Mr. DEX maybe would be a good one for you, Tim. You could still have that potentially. Actually, I'm really looking forward to welcoming Ben on the show also, because I really fell down something of a rabbit hole around this whole topic this week in preparing for the discussion. And one of the things I came across, I don't think I'd seen it before. I'd heard the name, but I didn't know what it was the ENPS, or Employee Net Promoter Score. You probably know what that is already, Tim, and I'm sure you do, Ben. But I want to give it a test drive, Tim, right? I want to test drive the ENPS on you. I want to see how engaged a next thinker you are. So I'm going to quickly ask you, Tim, if that's okay, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend NextThink as a place to work?
NextThink leads, in my view, NextThink leads the workplace. We do some great stuff to keep employees happy and engaged. I would give it a 10. No surprise, right?
I'll ask you again after the recording. And
Okay.
now let's welcome Ben officially. Ben has been recognized by Thinkers 50 as one of the world's leading management thinkers. We are, as we've said repeatedly, delighted to welcome him to the show. Ben Whitter, welcome to the DEX Show. Welcome.
Great. Nice to be here with you.
Excellent. Ben, I think a great place to start would be to hear about how you became Mr. Employee Experience and acquired this fascinating area of expertise and indeed reputation.
Wow, there's a story. How long have you got?
We've got a few minutes.
I suppose for me, starting off in Asia, I think that's where I started to gather this reputation as being someone that was obsessed with employee experience. So back in 2014, there were not many people on not many stages speaking about employee experience directly. They'd kind of mention or broach the topic in employee engagement or organizational culture or the HR operation and strategic HR topics. But no one at that time was really out there kind of, really sharing the gospel about employee experience. And that was linked to our research in China and across multinational organizations. We wanted to understand what really is the driving force behind great businesses, admired, respected, and trusted brands. And we came to the ultimate conclusion that it was all about the experience. And I think that's the work I've been doing. That's the story I've been telling for many years now. And it's kind of shaped my career and all the impact and things that I've been involved in, really.
Brilliant. And one of I thought really fascinating aspects of your work is the way you frame employee experience as an aspect of an employer's brand. That was kind of a novel outlook to me. I mean, can you tell me why it is you frame it in that way and why it matters so much to the brand ultimately?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I remember similar to what Tim just mentioned there. I had a guy come to one of my workshops really quite early on from one of the world's top employers. And I just very simply explained some of the research, and then I kind of went round our model for employee experience. And it was interesting to see the before and after picture, because before they were kind of sat at the back of the room, arms folded, thinking that they were the bee's knees. And it was a definite 10 out of 10 that they'd be rating their employee experience. And it's a household name. It's an iconic brand. Mm-hmm. By the time I'd finished the 2-hour session, he'd scaled down significantly. He'd kind of, that number 10 went to about number 7, number 8 quite quickly, because they realized the gaps they had when they look at the brand, when they look at how the brand connects to the people, and then all the experiences that they're co-designing with all stakeholders. So that was a great learning moment within that. And I kind of took that story with me because it just shows the impact and the power of employee experience when we think of it in a very holistic, brand and people-centered way, as opposed to one or the other.
Yeah, fascinating. Prior to the pandemic, Ben, how big a focus was technology in your overall assessment and analysis of employee experience?
I mean, it was part of it, yeah. So I came up with something called the holistic employee experience model, which you combine elements of humanity, look at the structure of an organization, you look at the workplace, you look at the community, you look at the leadership. But right in the center of that and across from the human element is technology. And, we can't look away from that. It's a powerful part of shaping the employee experience, driving outcomes and business growth and performance. The way it's integrated into employee experience is really quite critical as well. So vendor selection, who you work with, what products you use, what products you don't use. And again, what we're trying to do with employee experience is create a laser-like focus and then line up vendors, services, products, platforms to deliver on the employee experience, as opposed to what exists within most organizations is a very confused picture, which is complicated to navigate as an employee, and that's exactly what we don't want. So employee experience is not, I would say it's particularly driven by technology, but it is enabled by technology in many ways. But it's still not the be-all and end-all.
Is it fair to say, however, that the pandemic has made it a bigger part of that overall picture, in your view? Or a bigger enabler? Is that a different way to put it?
Yeah, I'd say it's certainly a bigger enabler as we sit here remotely and working from home, and we're reshaping, redefining different workplaces. But for me, it's still the humans that use the technology, that commission the technology, that lead the technology. That's the most important thing to focus on. And then we're creating new rituals, rhythms, and routines across organizations now, moving to hybrid type business structures as well. So I think it's terribly exciting. A lot of my last clients in a recent period have been really big technology firms who are wanting to get close to the employee experience, and that's another indicator that that it's just it's edging up the priority list of practitioners.
But you've touched on it a couple of times, Ben. It's the technology plays a big role here, but it starts by getting people and people managers and organizations to think differently, right? I think about employee experience and engagement a certain way, so I rate it a 10, but I certainly need to think differently about what that actually means, and then look at technology and how we take that thinking and thought process into the solutions. Where do you see the technology landscape right now, the capability? Because organizations, it's great if they think differently, but acting differently and behaving differently takes certain capabilities that they don't have today, right? It's the likes of the Qualtrics and the Workdays. What do you see that's most promising about that work, that landscape of the HR side of employee engagement in technology?
Yeah, I mean, fantastic opportunities there to grow that technological agenda within business with a human flavor, human touch, I suppose is a critical thing. But for me, it comes back down to that mindset. So again, I worked with technology vendors before, and a big part of the engagements that I've been kind of commissioned to do is to talk to their sales teams, to talk to their product engineers, to talk to their people about how do you really co-create great outcomes within the employee experience. Actually, how do you sell employee experience? First of all, what is employee experience?
Exactly.
It's interesting. One of the phone calls I got very early when I was sat in my office in Shanghai back in maybe 2014-15 was from a major technology company, and they were moving into the employee experience space. And they were like, okay, if employee experience is a thing, how do we work within the thing? How do we really maximize our impact in this space? So, and again, we're still there for a lot of companies. A lot of companies are still getting their sales teams, their product teams, their designers up to speed on, the real employee experience. It's not employee engagement. It's not any other fad that's gone before it. It's a total focus on the experience, and anything getting in the way of a positive experience needs to be challenged. Whether that's leaders, technology, strategy, anything that is ripe for action and positive improvement, I would say.
But those technology solutions, they need to have certain capabilities. As you look across that landscape of the tools that bring in and have that quote employee experience capability, what is it that they, on the technology side, what do they need to develop or change? What's missing from an enablement and a technology standpoint? What's not there today?
Yeah, I wrote about this in my first book, Employee Experience. So essentially what we're looking for as practitioners and leaders is this utopia of employee experience that doesn't currently exist. And that's kind of like the one platform, employee experience, where we can access everything in a very seamless, efficient, effective way that is intuitive based on the human user, as opposed to clunky, cumbersome, all these different apps and things that don't really integrate well with each other. So in one company we work with, there are about 200 different apps for all manner of different aspects of the employee experience, which is absolutely ridiculous. So again, integration is going to be absolutely fundamentally key to employee experience success when it comes to technology. But then when you have commissioners, practitioners and leaders without that mindset and that capability, which you rightly mentioned, then they're going to make very, very poor decisions when it comes to working with vendors and bringing in the right vendor for their particular company. Context is everything, and if they're working without that context, it's no good for anyone.
And what a great segue to the next kind of the thought, because it's technology integration. And as a technologist, I've been through many different integrations. Some work very well, some are kind of clumsy. But even before technology integration, we've got to look at the integration of our teams. And next thing, and I've talked about this a lot, the integration and collaboration between IT and HR, right? IT can ask certain questions, but if they are asking the wrong questions or they get information back that they can't take action on, it's really an HR answer. They're not likely to really do anything with that data because they can't do anything with it. So talk a little bit about the role of IT and how it can play in facilitating employee engagement, right? What is the real world opportunity of that collaboration between IT and HR?
Well, I mean, the very real thing about IT is that some of the best employee experience leaders come from an IT background. And that's because one of the early drivers of employee experience was the technology side. So all of a sudden you had IT and digital career-based practitioners, professionals. They was taking center stage in improving the employee experience, bridging the gap between people and organizations, creating more efficient outcomes, more impactful outcomes. So I think IT leaders in particular have taken a really strong role when it comes to employee experience, which is really, really positive. The issue, and we work with The Economist on some research on this very thing, was the lack of connection and collaboration between IT and HR. Because traditionally they've worked on very different things in very different specialisms in very different functions. And then all of a sudden we say, okay, magic wand, here you go, start working together seamlessly, create some great outcomes.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that.
No.
One of the biggest things within that research was a lack of alignment, a lack of accountability, and a disaster zone for these internal projects when everyone's trying to work together on the employee experience. Sometimes they see it as an add-on to their existing important jobs, which is absolutely ridiculous, given that people are the foundation to any business success we have. So that was the key aspect. Again, it comes back to mindset and capability. To collaborate effectively on employee experience projects, you need that openness and that inquisitive mindset, that curiosity to create things based on a larger possibility. How can we create one vision company? So we see ourselves holistically. If IT isn't performing well, we're not performing well. If HR is not performing well, we're not performing well. We need to look at the way we set up those support services for success in the long term, I would say.
Yeah, employee experience has to be intentional, right? It's got to be done by design and not by happenstance. It's not a hobby, and you need to have some intentional design behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a way you can bring together these very different animals of HR and IT? Like, how do you nurture that collaborative instinct?
Yeah, so on all of our engagements, we tend to bring together functional heads. So we look at heads of department, people with subject matter expertise, and we give them the challenge to accelerate the brand's progress. So again, it's that vision, setting the vision and that internal movement. that all of a sudden we're being very human-centered and experience-driven, but we're looking across all of each other's portfolios to look at where we can have maximum impact. So as opposed to IT looking after their IT things and HR looking after the HR things, it's where can we connect the dots and have bigger impact on behalf of the brand. And I suppose that's where we need to get to on a more consistent basis, as opposed to, again, what we're used to within organizations, really, because often they're poorly designed based on a hierarchical structure, which sometimes disseminates the wrong objectives for the wrong departments. But that's another matter.
Sure.
I think the biggest thing is, actually bringing them together to work on things that really push the business forward and are delivered in an employee-centered way.
Interesting. You heard me mention at the top of the call my first experience of EMPR, with Tim, in fact, there it was. Is it fair to say that when I think about these kind of employee engagement tools and applications, IT is the department who's best able to offer this insight in the context of where the employee is and what they're actually experiencing, right? In terms of like how many meetings they have, whether they're working from home or in an office, there are all kinds of kind of contextual details which IT is absorbing and can offer arguably a kind of richer picture of what's informing that employee experience. And I was really interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different data sets and data points within the IT estate that you can actually figure out what's going on really with the employee experience quite quickly, to a certain extent. Then you get into how far do you monitor employees? How do you use that data? How do you use that intelligence? We've seen a 600% increase in employee surveillance. And again, is that the right way to build trusted, respected, and admired brands? Well, if you're talking to me, it's definitely not the way to go. So again, we need to kind of just caveat that with, let's find the right rhythms and routines. Let's try and make a case for improving the employee experience. But again, we're seeing companies go over the edge of that into more draconian monitoring type surveillance organizations, which is not helpful for anyone in any stretch of the imagination. So I think, yeah, absolutely, IT is a great role to play in that. Also working with specialist data platforms, survey providers, which are in a lot of cases just survey providers. They're just providing a platform to create surveys, to roll out and get a sense of sentiment or feeling or actual experiences in real time. It's again not the be all and end all. It's not okay, we've commissioned a survey platform, therefore we're doing employee experience. No, it's not like that really. You get in we've got all this beautiful platform, we've got the surveys going, we've got the real-time continuous feedback loops. Absolutely useless unless you do something with it. You've got to take action, and you've got to have high-quality leadership making actions actually occur in practice.
And you got to have the high-quality data, right? A 3 to 4, 5% return rate on those surveys is useless.
Again, like you said, if you're not working towards getting that high-level data back, doing proper research projects on the employee experience, all of that is going to be obsolete from tomorrow. You may get the data today, but by tomorrow it might just be out of date.
Maybe it's because I'm a technologist at heart, but I've always thought that the tech stuff is the easy part, right? And the people are hard. There's a dynamic, or is there a dynamic between IT and HR in your view? Are there any potential issues or bottlenecks or hurdles that these two teams might have to traverse? And thinking kind of the ownership and access to sensitive data, or who takes the lead? What are your thoughts about the kind of the internal dynamics between those two groups?
Yeah, it is interesting, and it comes from I think it's an education matter as well, because we've been brought up to think certain things and do certain things and take responsibility for certain things. And that's been encouraged by C-suites and management teams. IT does its thing, HR does its thing. And now all of a sudden we're asking IT to play a stronger role within developing communication platforms and things that speak directly to the employee experience. So I'm not I'm not surprised there's resistance and some kind of friction between these functions, because historically it's been, it's been resource sensitive. So again, who's going to be doing the work? It's been there's been time pressures, working to different deadlines to suit different functions and professionals. So actually throwing these departments together and saying work it out is probably a good thing. If you set in your employee experience goals and you're saying, I don't care, we're going to sort this out one way or the other. If we have to do a restructure, we're going to do a restructure. If we're going to move people around, we'll move people around. But this is the absolute objective. We need to get a seamless, efficient, and effective employee experience digitally in place. And this is, why we need to do it as well for business growth and business performance. How you arrive at that is up to you, and it's for those two leaders, three leaders, those teams to sort that out and make that big picture come to life.
We've spoken a lot today, Ben, about how the increasing kind of impact of technology on this space. It's important not to lose sight of the human being at the center of the space, right? How do you ensure that's done in a kind of systematic way with your clients in particular, right? Like, how do you make sure they always center the employee?
We do this through coaching in particular. So throughout any project we're involved in, there's a high level of coaching, and that's to keep people on track with what really matters to an organization. And invariably what really matters to a business is the people that work in the business and for the business. So it's keeping an eye on that. So that level of human centricity, having some really strong design principles in the work that you're doing, making sure that you are co-creating at a level you're uncomfortable with. And I deliberately say, you've got to be really uncomfortable at the level of co-creation that you're doing. Because if you feel it's comfortable, you're not really pushing boundaries. Working with the front line of your organization, talking to the customers of your organization to define your employee experience. That is uncomfortable stuff for internal HR, IT, finance, estate professionals to do sometimes. Other departments are more used to that kind of rhythm, which is, we're talking to customers on a daily basis, finding out what we can do to improve the product. Why can't we do that for the employee experience? So that's where I would be looking at, keeping our clients on the ball with, the truth of their business, their purpose, their mission, their values, but leading with human centricity as much as we possibly can do. And if there's a bias towards the organization in certain aspects, then we need to have a really good case for doing that.
Nonetheless, of course, the last couple of years in particular have seen technology make a big impact on this space. And I'm very interested to know, Ben, how you see this relationship between technology and employee experience evolving in the next few years, and where you think it's going to go next. Yeah,
there's been quite a lot of new platforms and products come out this year as a result of the pandemic, which has accelerated things somewhat and brought projects forward. Certainly, some major players have come into the employee experience HR tech market, and I think that will continue. I think there'll be some consolidation, and some of these platforms will continue to build. But I think where we're going to is a proper plugged-in future where we are looking at something that is seamless right across the employee experience, right across the organization. Starting to see some connections between customers and employees as well in terms of business performance. That tends to sit in silos as it currently stands, those two data sets. But we'll start to see those two things come together through technology. AI and algorithms and robots and all kinds of funky stuff. That's all going to continue. And innovation is going to be ripe for the taking. We have HR functions now in the world that are now called humans and robotics. There's an actual company that has transformed their entire HR team to be focused on humans and robots. Automation and accelerated technology solutions into that HR experience. So I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of innovation with employee experience, but we just need to be a little bit cautious in the way that we work within our context, we work within our organization, and working with our people as well. Otherwise, we'll start to see some serious and some quite tense situations arise, as we're seeing through the pandemic as well. A mass firing on Zoom is not a good look.
Yeah,
great technology, but maybe used in the wrong way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously something everybody's talking about and anticipating at the moment is more and more hybrid work scenarios, especially going into the new year. What would be your specific advice to employers for facilitating positive employee engagement in the hybrid era specifically, Ben?
For me, it's getting much closer to the human experience and focusing on what really matters to people. So if there's anything that they're frustrated by that is causing them some pain or anxiety or stress within their experience on a daily basis, go and solve that first rather than last. It's unbelievable the amount of times organizations start solving the wrong problems, and they'll go off on a wild goose chase, introduce something, back it up with great communication campaigns, but it's totally the wrong thing. Employees didn't want it, they didn't need it, and it didn't really make an impact. So I would focus on the things that matter to employees first as opposed to last as a golden rule. And then secondly, build that trust and respect, that mutual respect with employees, and take them on the journey with you. So make co-creation a firm part of your business strategy at all moments within that experience as well. I think if you're doing those two things in a good way, then it's relatively difficult to go wrong. Where you do go wrong, it's when you're not doing those things as well as you could do.
Got it. Well, it's a great note to end on, Ben, and it's been wonderful to have you on the show. Thanks so much. If anybody out there wants to read some fascinating articles on the intersection between technology and employee experience, do check out the DEX Show's DEX Hub Mothership, and we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. Okay, Ben, thank you so much. Until next time, Changemakers.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.